Welcome back to the deep dive. Okay, so today we are going to take a sledgehammer, basically, to a history lesson I think most of us were taught was, well, absolute fact.
Oh, yeah, the extinction myth.
The extinction myth, exactly. This idea that Puerto Rico's indigenous Taino population was, completely wiped out by what, 1550?
By 1550, yes. It's the clean, tragic ending you see in almost every textbook. The Spanish arrive, and poof, the indigenous chapter is closed.
But it's not closed at all. If you look at the actual paperwork, the colonial records, that story just falls apart.
It absolutely does. The work of historian Juan Manuel Delgado is key here. He points to a Spanish census from 1779.
And 1779 that's over 200 years after they supposedly went extinct.
Exactly. And the census explicitly lists 3,551 Indians living on the island.
3,500 people. That's not a mistake.
Not at all. It was actually the highest number recorded in the whole late colonial period. Which leads to the big question, where were they for 2 centuries?
They weren't in San Juan, that's for sure. The records point to the mountains.
To the mountains, yeah. Specifically, these regions called the Indieras in places like San Germán and Maricao. It's very rugged, very remote terrain, perfect for staying off the grid.
And off the grid was kind of the point, right? Even for the governors.
Well, yes, but for corrupt reasons. Way back, around 1582, early governors would deliberately lie to the Spanish crown. They'd underreport the population.
Why? To protect them.
To evade taxes. Fewer people on the books meant fewer taxes to send back to Spain. So these indigenous communities were hidden by bureaucracy.
So they're there, but they're not officially there. Until they are. There's another census, right? In 1801.
It's right. Just in the San Germán area, it shows 3,355 indigenous people. They were counted, they were distinct. And then just a few years later, they completely vanished from all records.
So how do you make thousands of people disappear from one year to the next? It wasn't a plague this time.
No, it was a pen stroke. Literally, in 1808, the governor, a man named Toribio Montes, he issued a decree.
What did it do?
It ordered that the category of Indians simply be removed from the census. Gone.
Just deleted. What did they become?
They were all to be reclassified as pardos, which was a sort of catch-all term for free people of color.
And this wasn't just for, simplifying the paperwork. This was strategic.
It was entirely economic. You see, under Spanish law, if you were an Indian, you had certain protections. Protections for your land, for one.
And Pardos didn't have those.
Pardos had none of those. Yeah. So by changing their classification, landowners could legally strip them of their land.
It turns them into a landless workforce.
Precisely. They became what were called agregados. Think of it like a serf, someone living and working on a plantation that isn't theirs, administrative erasure to create cheap labor.
But you can't erase DNA with a pen, and that's where the modern science comes in.
Right, the work of Dr. Juan Carlos Martinez Cruzado is it's a bombshell. He studied mitochondrial DNA.
The maternal line.
Passed down directly from mothers, yes. And he found that about 61% of all Puerto Ricans today carry indigenous maternal DNA.
Wow, 61%. After 500 years of being told they were extinct.
And if you go back to those mountain areas, the old Indieras like Maricao, that number jumps to 80%. It's undeniable proof of survival.
There's one more piece of evidence, too, and it's kind of ironic. It comes from the Americans.
Yes. When the U.S. took over in 1898, Spanish officials insisted, there are no Indians here. But the Americans looked at the people in the mountains and, well, they disagreed.
They saw the physical traits. The phenotype was still there.
It was so visible, in fact, that between 1899 and 1905, the U.S. government sent about 60 Puerto Rican children to the Carlisle Indian Industrial School in Pennsylvania.
The same forced assimilation school they used for Native Americans from the mainland.
Right.
So the U.S. military recognized them as indigenous at the very same time local records said they didn't exist.
It's a fascinating contradiction. They were administratively invisible, but physically undeniable.
Which really reframes the whole idea of the Hebrew, the Puerto Rican mountain peasant. We think of them as Spanish, but their whole lifestyle.
Their lifestyle wasn't Spanish at all. Living in a bohío, a straw hut, sleeping in a hamaca, or a hammock, that's Taino. The culture didn't die, it was absorbed. The Jibaro is the surviving indigenous culture.
So a single bureaucratic label change in 1808 effectively hid an entire civilization for 2 centuries.
It just goes to show you that history isn't always about what happened. Sometimes it's about who was holding the pen and what they chose to erase.
It makes you wonder what else has been edited out for convenience. Thanks for listening to this deep dive. Stay curious.